Are you trying to set up a resolution for the new year? Well, maybe start with setting up some goals. And here to talk with us about that is Massey DeSantis from Desmo Wealth Advisors. Massey, welcome.
Yeah. Hi, Bob. Happy to hear.
Happy to have you here and happy to learn about setting goals to achieve a resolution.
Yes. When I think about New Year's resolutions, a lot of time people are kind of like are skeptical because, they always don't seem to go through with them. And so I said, well, why don't you just start by setting goals? A lot of times getting started is halfway there. So why don't you start with goals? And one of the things we do as financial planners is we help clients set goals. We go through a process. So there's quite a bit of work involved in just setting goals, but it's very important. And I think the key lesson about goal setting is you have to set goals that are meaningful to you, right? And what does it mean to be meaningful? And so we'll go through that. But if you think about the reason why you set goals is you really set goals because we have limited time, limited resources, limited energy. So goals help us focus on what's important to us, right? So almost by definition, a goal has to be important to you, has to be meaningful. And so we go through a process to first set meaningful goals. And there's a bunch of questions that I ask my clients to think about as they set their goals. So that's why I said, well, start the year by setting goals that are really important to you. And we said limit to 3 goals, which is, a pretty good number to start with.
Yeah, it sounds easy.
Well, it's not that easy. I mean, it's easy for a lot of people to think about retirement. It's a simple goal, right? Hey, I want to retire when I'm 65. Okay, well, that's not enough. That's not a goal yet, right? So, we go through a lot of questions. And I think we have a process, and we talk about that in the article. And the first step in the process is don't even think about goals yet. Think about your values. What do you care about? What makes you tick? There's many ways to ask that question. Why is money important to you? And it's really about you and what you value. And so I ask people to list 5 top values. And I give a list of what values might be. A lot of time people talk about time with family, financial independence, being secure. Those are all valid values. And so, I tell people start with that and then rank them. Just pick the ones that are most important to you. And then I start with a list of goals. A lot of people don't have really a problem listing some of their goals. And so then, you make that list of goals and then I ask them to prioritize them. Okay, choose the top 3, top 5. And then the next step is align them. How do they align with the values that we just talked about? Right? So make that connection between the values and the goals. And then maybe an iterative process. You have to go a couple of times. Hey, maybe I reorder my values or reorder my goals. And so then in that process, we then end up with what are the top 3 goals that are most meaningful to you because they align with the values that we talked about. So those are the goals. We're not there yet because that's still just a list. And then, once we got these goals, then we have to go through a series of questions to make them valid goals. And, for example, like we were talking about retirement, you have to, what does retirement look like to you, right? Are you going to be moving to a different place? Or are you going to stay here? We want to figure out what it costs to be retired. For some people, retirement is, I just want to retire early to then pursue a passion that will generate some income. Some people want to start their own business. Maybe they leave the corporate world to start, a business and be more independent. And so you have to figure all these things out. And, so the goal has to tell you a little bit more than just, I want to do this, right? What does that look like, right? What does retirement look like? Then you have to, for example, you have to do a budget. How much are you going to spend in retirement? Because ultimately, once we decide on a goal, we want to figure out what that costs, right? What is the cost of that goal? Only then you can then start planning for it. So the goal has to have a cost component to it. So we go through a set of questions to help them figure it out. And so we listed some of those important questions in the article.
Right.
Other types of goals would be family goals, like a college goal. That's similar, right? You have a time horizon. How many years do you have you have an amount that you may plan for. Those are all questions that are important. Like I was saying earlier, in the retirement case, you want to figure out, what's an amount, how much is it going to cost you every year? Right here is the same. How much is college going to cost you? And then the time horizon, that's important, because the longer the time you have, obviously, the more time you have to plan. If you're planning to start a business in the future, you may want to do a business plan, like figuring out some cash flows. So we break down, I think we talk about family goals, we talk about estate planning, we talk about personal growth. And so, what are some of the questions you want to ask yourself to be able to define the goal in an actionable way? So I think my New Year's resolution is really, do some work and focus on your goals. What is really important to you, and try to flesh out what that goal looks like, what it costs, and how much time do you think you have to achieve it?
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of work. Should someone think about hiring an advisor to help them with this?
I think you can start on your own, and for some people that may be enough, but I think the next step is really, so the goal of the article is at least arm you with a lot of questions. Those are the questions that you need to answer. Some people may be able to do that on their own, but other people may need help. And so I want people to be aware of the questions so that they can go, maybe talk with an advisor, and the advisor can help them, can help them by answering the right questions for them.
Well, Massi, I happen to think that you've helped a good many people figure out how to go about setting goals and achieving their resolutions. So much appreciated.
Yes, thank you. I mean, if people go through the article, they'll see that's the process we follow here. Obviously, we help people every step of the process, and that's we think it's very important, because as I was saying earlier, if the goal is meaningful, it has a couple of different aspects to it. The fact that it's meaningful makes it more likely that you're going to stick with it and you're going to work towards that goal. Also, once you go through this process of setting the goals, and now the goal makes sense to you because it's more articulated, then obviously you're also more likely to get started and to work towards that goal.